Hey folks, how you doing? I've got the Les Paul out today. I just put some new strings on it. I'm going to use this on New Year's Eve as kind of the rock guitar. We're playing a bunch of different songs for New Year's Eve. One of which is Don't Stop Believing. Just got this big kind of epic kind of rock guitar thing. And then we're doing Living on a Prayer and a bunch of songs like that, like these big epic kind of rock kind of guitar thing. So I wanted to play this and did something slightly different. I did a top wrap on the bridge where you bring the strings round and under and over, so it changes the break angle at that point there. I don't know if you can see that. I've not really done that before. I usually just normally string it, but this guitar has 11s on it, and I ordinarily use 10s nowadays. I've kind of switched over to 10s. So this guitar has 10s on it, which is 10 to 46 elixirs, which I've been using for a little while now. I've been 11 to 49 elixirs for years on just all my guitars, but I started getting like pain in my hand and my arm when we were doing We Will Rock You. A bunch of reasons for that. I've talked about it before, but I kind of went down to 10s just because I thought I don't want to risk this. Yeah, and so I've been using 10s for ages on pretty much all the guitars. I have 11s on the SCO guitar, which is back there somewhere. It's over there. I have 11s on the AR520 and AR420, and I had 11s on this as well. And I thought, I don't really want to go down to 10s because I need to be set up again. And I thought if I top wrap it, then you're going to change the angle. So first thing I did was put the tailpiece up a little bit and change the break angle. And I was like, yeah, I just instantly, it felt lighter and easier to play. And I was like, okay, so just try top wrapping it when I change the strings. So yeah, gave it a go. Seems all right. Seems to be feeling pretty much the same. Doesn't feel like a set of 10s. But I'd describe it as feeling the same as what it felt like when it was in the normal tailpiece, but with the tailpiece raised up a bit. Does it? I don't think it sounds better. It doesn't sound any different tonally, but it feels slightly different. So I was like, well, I'll give that a go, see how it goes. Because going from this guitar with 10s on it to this guitar, because these are the primary two guitars I'm going to use for that New Year's Eve gig. I talked about that in the last video. This guitar here will do about 70% of the songs, this Paul Reed Smith. I've been feeling really attached to this guitar lately. It's the one I pick up the most and use the most. And for that gig, there's a heap of like pop songs, like Whitney Houston to Cyndi Lauper to the Proclaimers to all kinds of stuff in there. Total Eclipse of the Heart, things like this. You know what I mean? Like they're going full 80s on 90s on some of it. So it's like Strat kind of tone, right? So that's what I'll be using, like the fat Strat. And then the rockier stuff, I wanted the Les Paul, you know, because I have to take two guitars anyway. So yeah, I'll address this because there was a few questions about this. I have to take two guitars. If I just turn up with this and I break a string, I'm screwed. Like I'll be holding the whole gig up. And you can't do that on a gig like that, right? You need to have a spare, especially guitar with a tremolo, because it's you know, and I really want the tremolo because there's a lot of stuff with like lush chords where you could use the trem. There's a couple of kind of rockier things where I'll, you know, classic rock where I'll kind of get some tremolo involved. Not like crazy, but just like a little bit. Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, so, so I have to take two guitars anyway, and I was thinking, well, what two do I want to take? So I was thinking rock pig guitar and more Strat type guitar, and then I'll probably take the Tele anyway, but not. I probably won't end up using it. Maybe I will. There's something that kind of feels like it should be just more a Tele thing. But I really want to have a backup single coil guitar as well. So, you know, if this for any reason went down, I could do the gig on the Les Paul, but I'd rather just have the Tele. I may not even take it. I don't know. I'll see how I go. But yeah, so the Les Paul, and these things just ring for ages. Our question here was, what does your warm-up routine look like before the gig? How long do you typically warm up for? Okay, so like if we're talking like actual warm-up, you know, the usual stuff that I've done some videos on this before, but this sort of stuff, you know, and running scales and kind of right-hand warm-up, you know. This sort of stuff, I'll do all that for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. This gig, we actually have a rehearsal in the afternoon on the same venue, which is kind of weird because it's a big outdoor stage. So there could be people there, and the weather forecast is not looking great. So I'm hoping the gig still goes ahead, because it'll suck if it doesn't. But you've got to be prepared as if it's going ahead. So yeah, 10, 15 minutes and I'm good to go. But you know, by then I'll have warmed up anyway. I probably played an hour in the morning. I'll probably do a video, so I want to warm up before that. So yeah, but usually 10, 15 minutes and I'm good to go, no matter what sort of music it is. And it's usually in 3 steps. I do the exercise thing, which is about getting the 2 hands to talk to each other. You know, any variation I can come up with. And then I'll do some rhythm guitar stuff, like I said. And then usually what I do is I kind of play some of the music I'm about to play. So with this gig, it's a lot of pop and rock kind of stuff. I wouldn't really say funk, but pop and rock. So I'll play some of that music, and this is about getting me in that headspace. We're at a blues gig, I'm going to be playing some blues. We're at a jazz gig, I'm going to be playing some jazz. So but then, you know, if I had a gig that was like some full-on classical thing, then I probably wouldn't do any of that. And by classical thing, I mean, you know, I'm not really going to get the call to do a whole night of classical guitar, because it's not what I do. And if someone rang for that anyway, I'd just tell them to get a specialist. You know, because there are people that actually do that stuff, you know, like that's their gig. They don't need me. But what I mean by that is like the light classical stuff that sometimes I end up doing, you know, maybe it's a string quartet and an electric guitar for half of it, and then maybe I'll play a little bit of nylon string, and you're back in a singer type stuff. Like kind of like what we did with Will Martin, you know, that Somerset stuff about a month ago. In which case then I'll definitely be working on more fingerstyle warm-up, making sure that this hand is, because you're not using pick, right? Funny, I've kind of been experimenting with a couple of things, and one of the charts that just came through for this gig is Purple Rain. And I've always played that tune kind of just playing the chords. The first chord in Purple Rain, which everyone gets wrong, they do this. B flat sus2, it's not. There's definitely a D on the bottom. You can do it like this. I've seen it done like this. But that doesn't sound right either. I can hear that note in it. And I've actually seen some videos of Wendy playing it, and it looks like she's not doing it the way it sounds on the record. So, because you know how it is when you play on records, you do this stuff and you don't remember what you did. I don't remember what I did. So the chord really sounds like this. With chorus though, let's find the chorus sound. Not wah wah. And it's clean. Right, but put the capo on, way easier. And even this. So you can guarantee that's what I'm going to be doing. And then of course there's Mr. Brightside we're playing, which I figured out a way to do that without having to detune again, because I'll play it on the Porried Smith, but it's bit dirtier than that. That kind of thing. Just for speed, I'd really like to do it properly and detune because you can actually do it by detuning your highest string, but there's not going to be time, and that's kind of going to mess with things. It's just, yeah, I'll have to pick up the guitar and go, because I start the song too. So, and then of course, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, which I think I talked about the other day. Let's go back to the right sound. That one. And even that chord, right? Sounds to me like it's that voicing, but with a low F. Which you can't do without the capo. So this will get a lot of use. For any Kiwis around, this was Anika Moa's, who's a well-known New Zealand singer-songwriter. She left it at a gig, and I got in touch with her, and I was like, hey, you left your capo here. Do you want me to post it to you? And she said, nah, keep it. So I've ended up with a bunch of them now. And that's how it goes. Oh, cheers, Hugh. He says, cheers for the tip on Purple Rain. Ice. Sounds awesome. Cheers, man. Yeah, it's just better with the capo. And I used to think it was kind of cheating, like back in the day. It was kind of like, no, just don't do it with the capo. Just do it, play it properly. But I don't think that at all anymore. Now I'm like, man, whatever gets the job done, do that. It makes it sound best. Because something like Man, I Feel Like a Woman, it doesn't sound right without the capo. Now that I've kind of figured out that that's what Dan Huff was doing when he played it, because I saw the man himself do it on that Vertex video, I went, oh, that's how it's done. And it's interesting, I went and watched a couple of videos of Shania Twain playing it with her band, and the guitar players weren't using the capo, and I was like, it just doesn't sound right. I often, here's a question, says, I often find it difficult to translate ideas and lines in my head onto the guitar. How do I try to minimize the gap? Okay, here's the thing you can do, right? If you're finding like the struggle, if you're hearing something and you can't do it on here, usually that's not that common a thing, right? A lot of times people think that's what's happening, but there's other issues in the way. But a good way you can work on that, if you really want to get it, is just start singing what you play. And it's not about singing well, it's just really about associating this with a note in your head. Right, I can hear those. I mean, I'm singing them. I'm not a singer, right? But I can hear them in my head, and so therefore I can find it on the guitar. So I'd say just start singing what you play, and then what will happen is not only what you play will be more musical, right? That's just like a byproduct of singing more, because you're going to have to leave breaths, because you'll start singing something and then you'll be like, and back into your next phrase, right? Whereas on guitar we can just go, something like. Could you imagine a singer doing something like that? They'll just run out of breath and like cark it. So they have to breathe, right? And so you'll phrase better, everything will happen better, and you start to get more of a connection to the sounds of the notes with what's happening in your head. So give that a try. I definitely think that has helped me a lot. Greetings from Melbourne. Greetings from Wellington, New Zealand. Love Melbourne. My favourite Australian city. There's some great Australian cities though too. I like Sydney, especially for the beaches, like Bondi Beach and stuff, and Coogee Beach. I've been down there a few times and stuff. I used to live in Auckland. Wellingtonians love to hate Auckland, but I like Auckland. Do you know what I mean? It's a big city, and 2 million people or so. And I find Auckland really is the only proper international city in Wellington. There's a lot of stuff happening. But I love Melbourne. The greatest Les Paul tone I've ever heard is Mark Knopfler. Is it Brothers in Arms? That neck pickup thing is so fat and warm and round, and it's beautiful. I've never learned how to play it. It's kind of one of those things where I thought if I ever do learn it, then I'd probably be one of those things. So it says, thank you, Nick. All your videos are extremely helpful to us budding guitar players. Oh, thank you. Greetings from Pune, India. Is that how you say that? Wow, awesome. Man, that's a place I'd love to go. I love Indian food, as my buddy Warren Mendonça will tell you. I just love Indian food. It's awesome. I think my two favorite foods, I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, that on equal footing, Thai food and Indian food. This guitar's had one of the volumes and tones taken off, which I much prefer. Like you saw there when I switched between pickups and stuff, I don't even have to think about it anymore. If I want to turn the volume down, it's one control. And I gotta say, going back to two volumes and one tone on my DGT messes me up all the time. I'll flick the switch over and then I'm like, oh damn. And then I go to that middle setting, and if I want to turn down, I have to turn down two controls, and I start going, if I turn down the neck pickup to 5, then where's 5 on the bridge pickup? Especially if it's dark, I can't really see. I start going, no, forget it. I just prefer one volume, one tone. Actually, probably two tone controls is probably the more useful than having two volumes, because you could turn down the tone control on the bridge pickup, which is probably where you want it, and I'm always going to leave the neck pickup wide open unless I'm going for a jazz tone. Alright, and I've gone out of tune. No surprise. New strings. So whenever I put new strings in, I always stretch them in, and I usually do that by kind of playing a whole lot of wonky rubbish. I'm sure everybody has their own way, but I just kind of bend all the strings aggressively and kind of play really hard, kind of push things around and kind of, quite aggressive with it, more aggressive than I ever would be playing. And then you tune it up again, do it all again, kind of get, this sort of stuff. And see, it's already gone, I can hear it. Alright, it's also really hot in my studio at the moment. It's been closed up for the day. This guitar has funny kind of tuners on it too, they're a bit wonky. And Les Pauls are one of those things that are hard to get them in tune. Because of that, I've talked about it before too, that angle thing that kind of drives me nuts, but I'm willing to put up with that on New Year's Eve. Particularly too because I won't be playing this all night, I'll only play it on some tunes, the more rocky tunes, so. That sort of stuff. I'm gonna need to practice that one. Because on this guitar with heavier strings. So we'll actually do some work on that because the feel of the guitar is different now too. So I'm not sure how far to push it because if you've just joined me, I've tail wrapped it now, which I've never done with a Les Paul before, and it just feels different. It feels like then I was like, am I gonna? As someone who's trying to get into more jazz music, I think that I really need to build repertoire before sitting in on some jazz jams. Any specific tunes you would recommend? Yeah, that's a good idea. I've seen people go along to jam sessions and then someone goes, "What do you want to play?" And they go, "I don't know any songs." Well, then why are you getting up to jam? Do you know what I mean? So I would definitely go and learn some tunes so that you're prepared for that, and then you can have a good experience on the jam session, right? So what I'd suggest is go and attend the jam sessions, and use your phone so it doesn't look kind of weird. But use your phone and just make little notes of what songs are played, and you'll probably find that week after week the same tunes are being played. Maybe it's Blue Bossa, maybe it's All the Things You Are, maybe it's Giant Steps, whatever. There Will Never Be Another You. There is no greater love. But yeah, one thing is kind of universally true at jam sessions all across the world that I've ever been to is at some point somebody is going to play a jazz blues on a jazz jam session, right? So learn a blues or two, and what I mean by learn it is really learn it, so that you know that tune that no matter what happens, the drummer could be terrible and it's all falling apart, but you can hold your part down no matter what anyone else does, right? So learn the melody, learn the chords, learn some solos, transcribe other people, and then you're prepared, right? So, but there's probably going to be a blues, right? At most jam sessions, there'll probably be some standards if it's a jazz jam session, like things like There Will Never Be Another You is a common one that's called a lot. There Is No Greater Love. These sorts of tunes, and just pay attention to what's been played, and then learn that so that you've got the material, right? And then when you sit in, you're ready to go. Because I've definitely been in that situation where I wasn't ready. I remember when Poncho Sanchez was in town, his band, I got to know those guys sort of through a mutual friend. And there was a jam session at there was a gig, and we kind of went and took over the gig a little bit. Yeah, Autumn Leaves is a great choice. It's going to pop up at jam sessions all the time. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Autumn Leaves for sure. Know that one. But yeah, these Poncho's band were in town, and so and I know Francisco Torres, the trombone player and MD, for a while now. So we went and took over this gig and ended up just jamming a bit, But they called a bunch of tunes that I didn't know, and it was like, oh, right. And one of them I remember very vividly was the tune called Whisper Not. And I don't know if you folks know that tune, but it starts in C minor, descends down. And now we're in D minor. Yeah, Benny Golson tune, that's right. And then there's this, what do you call it? Got the wrong tone. Right, so on and so on. And it's tricky because it starts in C minor, modulates up to D minor halfway through the A section. It's a hard one to kind of hear your way through. Do you know what I mean? I've got decent ears, and I kind of know a lot of theory and harmony and stuff, but it was still kind of it was pretty touch and go. And the bass player was playing upright, and he was having his own kind of troubles. He was a really good player, fantastic player. I've seen him around before. He was here with Natalie Cole too, some years ago, and but the bass was the pin was broken on the bottom, so the bass was really low, and I was struggling to try and play it, and so I got my way through that, and I had to take a solo, which was fine because by then I'd sort of wasn't the first soloist, so I got time to kind of figure out some changes and what was going on, and then I went home that night and I learned that tune, and now I'm totally fine playing it, and I forget even what the second tune was. But I don't remember it being as hard as Whisper Not, which is probably, I think it was one of those where it was pretty logical, so you just kind of went, okay, that's going to be that, But the thing is, once they started Whisper Not, it was there was no time to say, oh, I don't know it. It was they'd already started. It's well, you're on guitar, you're on stage, get on with it. a bit to see if I can do this carefully. Yeah, I need to break this guitar in again because it's just feeling so different. And actually, I've been playing this guitar heaps lately. I'm really enjoying this. It's really working well now. And what I like about this guitar is it makes me play a certain way. Let's turn that distortion off. Let's get a clean tone. So this is the clean tone on the Fractal FM3. And I've just turned on the OTB Custom. Oh, and Barry's pedal. Ah, come on. Can I reach it? Ah, no. So this is the clean sound just straight from it. Right, but put the OTB Custom on. It just makes everything sound better. I love that pedal. It's freaking awesome. It was really expensive for what it is. It's just adding a little bit of breakup and compression. So this is feeling so much nicer to play. I'm going to have to do some work on this guitar because, like I said, I've just put new strings on and I've top wrapped the bridge. So it's just feeling different. So I think I need to kind of do some intonation, maybe check out the action. It's feeling a little bit odd. Excuse me. So I mean, that OTB just makes everything sound great. It's the sweetener. One song we are playing on New Year's Eve is absolutely hate that song. But hey, that's the gig. Favorite George Benson song. Favorite George Benson tune, sorry. I like his version of Ready and Able from Cookbook. Yeah, it's Proclaimers. It just reminds me of like bad pub gigs. Favorite George Benson tunes, I'd say Ready and Able, his version of that opening track from Cookbook. Burning guitar playing. He just sounds incredible on that. I like some of the cheesier stuff too. I know some people kind of are anti that and they think, but Affirmation, yeah. This Masquerade I think is great that he did. I mean, I like things like Give Me the Night. They're just great tunes, even though it's, a little bit of cheese, but a little bit of cheese is good sometimes, and GB can bring the cheese, So yeah, I like that kind of stuff. There's that Boogaloo that's on Cookbook. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's great. Heaps. Yeah. But a lot of those tunes he didn't actually write anyway. I quite enjoy 6/4. It's an interesting polyrhythm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And interesting thing, you know, if you were to learn a heap of George Benson tunes, you're probably not going to have them turn up on a jam session, are you? Do you know what I mean? So, well, that's great to learn that stuff, and even then on gigs, that doesn't pop up that much, and you sort of go, well, why am I learning all this stuff? But it becomes your flavor, so that's the reason to learn it, as far as I see it. Do you know what I mean? I was really into George Benson when I was younger. I loved his playing. Ah, Simon Williams, you're here. My mate Ted says play some Robin Ford, Nick. I'd ignore him if I was you. I can play some Robin Ford. Why don't I do that? I have the dude pedal here all ready to go, which is it's what I'd use for the Robin Ford type thing. Down till it's clean. No, that's the wrong sound. Yeah, so that's a little bit of Rugged Road, which I like. Billy says, what country are you from? I'm from New Zealand. I was born in Wellington, New Zealand, and I still live in Wellington, New Zealand. I've spent my whole life living here, pretty much. We lived in the UK for a year and a bit. We're looking to relocate somewhere in Europe, but that didn't work out for a bunch of reasons. COVID part of that too. Yeah, Robin. Greg says Robin is great. I saw him in Hamilton years ago with Roger Fox. Yeah, one of my students, Conway, was doing in that band at the time. Did that tour, but I got to meet Robin and hang out with him when he was in Wellington on that tour. I interviewed him. There's an interview on my channel. If you, yeah. So he was cool. Interesting. Yeah, interesting kind of perspective. He was a bit jaded on touring. He told me a bunch of times that he was kind of sick of touring now and just wanted to kind of be a bit more of a homebody. But actually that he was living in Nashville at the time and he was looking to move to Paris, like pretty much straight after that Roger Fox tour. And I think he did with his girlfriend or whatever happened. And then I'd heard that he'd been around the UK quite a bit, hanging around London and those kinds of areas. So, and I think that's where he is now. I've been seeing people doing stuff with him over in there, so that'll be great. He's a hell of a guitar player. Get that back to that. I mean, yeah, I love all that Robin Ford stuff. What key is it? does it still sound loud? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that there. Let's do that. There we go. There we go. That's better. There we go. It wasn't blending right. Sounds louder now. Something weird going on. Hugh says, I love the sound of those P90s, Nick. So alive, sparkling, great for jazz too. It cuts through that wonderful PRS. Yeah, it does it. There's something magic in these pickups that Glenn makes, you know. And what I love is I'll call him up and I'll be like, this is what I'm thinking. And he goes, I've had an idea. And he'll come back and he'll go, first he'll go, what do you want to achieve? And, you know, I'm picky. I'm real picky. And I'll say, I tend to ear more on the vintage side of things, you know, generally. And then he'll be like, oh, yeah, no, I can do that. He goes, great, give me a week. And then this happens, you know, and he wasn't making these. They weren't part of his collection, but they are now. You can now buy these. So I was kind of a guinea pig, I guess. And he sent them out and I put them in the guitar, and I just sort of, all of a sudden, I noticed the sparkle that was missing in this guitar was back. Because to me, it's like it had just, I don't know, it sounded like it was all mid-range, you know. Yeah. So yeah, he's a clever man, and you know, it's nice to support a Kiwi, you know, someone who's doing the yards from here. Oh, that's nice to hear. Thanks, Ted. Yeah, I love Robin Ford. He's one of my favorite guitar players. Do you get a week off for holidays also? Billy said. Yeah, I haven't had a day off all year with this Guitar Daily thing, right? I haven't missed a single day all year, but we're traveling to the US in January 10th, and I'm actually thinking I'm probably going to take some time off because we'll be in Alaska for a week. So not really going to be, we'll be traveling heaps like to get there. There's like 3-4 flights maybe to get there, and I'm like, well, the travel days aren't going to work to do daily videos, so I already missed some for that. I'll be there with some really dear friends, so I thought, why don't I just take some time off for a week? So I probably will do that, but then we're going to LA and I'll be at the NAMM show, so you'll get to see all the nerdy guitar stuff when I'm there, all the new products. I'm going to try and hook up some interviews with people. I did speak to Dean Parks when he was here with James Taylor, and so I'm going to hit him up, see if we can make that happen with your choice. One of my favorite guitar players. If you don't know who Dean Parks is, it's like the legendary Steely Dan guitar player. He's on Josie, one of the tune that I played a lot. That's Dean Parks with James Taylor. I saw him when he was here. He's played on a million things. That little DreamWorks caption at the beginning, that was him playing that Nolan string. You know, like every movie you've ever heard, that little thing, you know. It's crazy. So yeah, so and then Andrew Senowick is another session guitar player I know in Los Angeles, so I was thinking it'd be cool to hang with him and maybe see if he wants to do something and we could play. No, I don't know Sean Pierce Johnson. Where's Sean from? So Greg says Robin replaced Larry Carlton in the LA Express, so he has some chops. Oh, he sure does. I mean, he played with Miles Davis, you know. You don't get to do that unless you can really play. Right, Miles would have been really picky, but Robin also played with Michael McDonald and George Harrison and Joni Mitchell, and you know, it's legendary, really. NAMM is the end of January. I think it's January 21 to 25 or something like that. Yeah, so the NAMM show, for those that don't know, is like a big music trade show. So we'll just, all the manufacturers are there. In the last few years, it's been kind of patchy with the whole COVID thing. You know, a lot of manufacturers like Fender and Gibson were like, we're not going to send our people there, which is fair enough. You know, you run the risk of people getting sick, especially if you're around a lot of people. I think there's about 200,000 people go there over the weekend or something. But this year they're all back apparently, so most of the big companies, so that'll be cool. Although I did talk to Robert Keeley and he's not going to be there, so I'm like, damn it. And I spoke to Mason at Vertex and he's not going to be there either because I played in Mason's booth a bunch of times. But there'll be other people around and stuff, so there'll be hangs. And there's always a heap of good playing. And I saw that the Fearless Flyers are playing that week in Los Angeles, so I'm going to make a point of going to see Mark. Should show you guys this too. This is one of the things with the fractal stuff, right? Because people know this stuff is modeling, which it is, you know, models, amps, all that kind of stuff. But the effects in these things is insane. This is coming along this or something, the reverb. So lush. Awesome. What sport do Kiwis also play beside cricket? Man, are you kidding? Rugby. Rugby's the big sport here, far bigger than cricket. Like, cricket's popular here somewhat, but every man and his dog is into rugby. And I have a love-hate relationship with rugby. I like it. Sometimes I like it, but sometimes I just get... It's so big here that it's just nuts. Like, it's crazy how popular rugby is here, and so... yeah, sometimes you just get sick of it, but it's great. And I know a bunch of rugby players, because that's just the nature of it. But yeah, rugby's the big one here. What country are you from? Let me know, people. I'd love to know where everyone's from. Greg said he's from Hamilton. I know that much. And we had India before, so that's awesome. Dean Parks used to play with Bread too, did he? Oh, I didn't know that. He's a legend. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. He's one of the most prolific session musicians in the world, right? He's the guy. Greece. Oh, awesome. Yeah, we were going to go to Greece for our honeymoon, but we ended up going to Thailand because the time of year was wrong when we were going. Would have been, we were going to go January? No, February. So it would have been kind of winterish time. I can't remember. Maybe it was the prices were high. There was some reason we didn't end up. So that was Dean Parks, you know. Although he said that he played that all individually, not together. Yeah, this is a Pori Smith, so this is a custom 22 soap bar model. I've had it since, you can see it's got no finish on the neck, which was done before I got it. I actually put some finish on it at Christmas time, and I wrecked it. It didn't work out well at all. I got a spray polyurethane because the rest of the guitar's poly. I was like, I'm just going to spray it myself because I do know how to do that kind of stuff. And for some reason, it just didn't dry and didn't adhere, and it kind of got all gunky, so I just sanded it off. Oh, Netherlands. Nice. Greetings from Idaho in the US. Oh, awesome. Greece. So we got Greece, India, the US, Netherlands. Wow. That's crazy, isn't it, when you think about the internet in that sense, isn't it? How do you know so many chords? What's the secret? Okay, so the thing is, like, the way I look at chords is probably different than someone who's not as experienced as me. So the thing is, I don't necessarily want to memorize 10 billion chords. It's not the way I kind of look at it. But to start off with, I get, if someone's a beginner or intermediate player, I get that you have to do that. But to me, it's like I want to know how chords work, like the structure of it. So for example, let's take something like D minor. Now, you memorize that to start with, right? But I'm kind of looking at it and going, well, that's A, D, and F, right? So I can restructure that to be, right, there's your next triad. Those are all the same chord. Right, and of course you can play them on any set of strings. And you can see by kind of moving those notes around, I can get a whole lot of chords. But then I can also split them up too. So instead of having like D, F, A in order, I might drop the D down. Or maybe I'll drop the A down and I'll go so that's a D minor chord too, right? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of looking at it and going like, instead of trying to know a million things, the way I look at it is go, I want to know the things that I know a million ways rather than a million things one way, right? Oh, I look like a well-accomplished, do I? Wearing a scruffy t-shirt and a scruffy hat and all that. Is that what a jazz musician looks like? I think you mean how I play, but thank you very much. That's very kind to say. Yeah, I've done a lot of jazz gigs and I've played with a lot of really great players. I've been very lucky in my career to get to do that. This is what I do. I play professionally and I've never done anything else, luckily. I mean, the closest I've had to a day job was teaching at a university where I taught at a jazz school. Yeah. JC1, Grace says JC120 amp with a 335 for Josie, I think. I think it was something like that. No, it wasn't a 335. There's a video of him playing on Asia, whether that's actually the instrument, the documentary for the making of Asia, and he's playing a 330. So a Gibson ES 330, which looks like a 335, but it's not. It has P90s like this, two P90s, and it's hollow, completely hollow. So it's not got the center block. So they kind of look like a 335, but they're not. Okay, yeah. So question was. Okay, so I'll go with Billy's question first. Is, can you talk more on what you just said about playing one thing in a million ways? Yeah, sure. So that D minor chord, right? I want to know like there's many different ways of doing that, right? But then I also want to kind of look at like the structure of how these things work to make more chords, right? So that could be D minor, right? But I can also get D minor 7 just by moving the D down to a C, and get D minor 6 by moving the C down to an open B, and get D minor 11, although technically not really minor 11 because there's no minor third, but nonetheless. I could put the 6 in there, I could put the flat 5 in. So you see, by taking the same structure, I'm kind of going, right, how many different ways can I take this? Where can I move it? Where can I morph it into? And then the most important thing, this stuff doesn't mean shit if you don't actually make music with it, right? Because this is all just theoretical, right? It's just, I'm going, this is a theory of what this chord is and how it moves and how it works. Well, the theory is only one thing. The most important thing is that you put it into tunes and you use it in real music. So I'll take those voicings and I'll go, right, what's a tune that I could use those over? Do you know what I mean? Like, say, Summertime. And there's my D minor voicing. And I'll kind of work on that sort of stuff and sort of putting it into the tune. And then the more you do it, you start to figure out what things work for you and which ones don't. And then you build on that. And that's kind of what I've done most of my life. So yeah, hope that helps. Any tips on playing with singers or soloists? Sure. Never comp too much. The simpler, the better. I remember playing with Clay Jenkins earlier in the year, who's a great trumpet player from the US. Clay was... still is in the Count Basie Big Band. legendary trumpet player. We've played a bunch of times. He's been out here about 4 or 5 times, and we've toured and different things. So I know Clay well. And one thing he said in the workshop that we did was that he's never played with any musician that he wished did more when they were comping. And that stayed with me. I always remember that. I go, okay, right. So the key to it is don't play too much. Just give what's necessary and nothing more. And that seems to work well with both singers and soloists. Hope that helps. Favorite versions of Stella by Starlight from Sasha. Okay, sure. Ufwe Kenius from his playing on that from Neil Henning Orsted Peterson's album, which is called To a Brother. And it's Adam Nussbaum on drums, Ufwe Kenius on guitar, and NHOP on bass. And they play Stella by Starlight, and he plays these beautiful chords. It's just on the bass, and it's stunning. The solo's killer. Yeah, that's one definitely. Jim Hall, although Jim Hall plays it in a different key. It's not in the usual B flat, if you're thinking about it. So first chord would be E on Stella, right? This. If you're thinking those changes, there's lots of different ways to approach those changes. We'll go with the changes that you probably know from the book. But and that you would essentially think of that as B flat. Well, he does it in G, right? So it's I think I went a bit wrong there. You get the idea, but he does it in G. Excuse me, I need some water. Yeah. The device is there really a lot of session work in New Zealand to make a decent living compared to the US? No, there's not a decent amount of session work anywhere in the world anymore, except for Nashville. I'd say Nashville seems to be a place where there's still a lot of session work going on. There's not a lot here in New Zealand anymore. I get a lot of it, but that's because this is not me speaking about myself, but this is what I've heard others say about me, the big fish in the little pond thing. I hate that analogy, but I can't think of another way of putting it. Because I do, so I get a lot of the work that happens. I get a lot of stuff with people from overseas. So they send me stuff, and so I do a lot of sessions in my studio here, which is why it's all set up. People send some files, I play. I've got one that I have to do in the next week. A good buddy of mine was doing a record. He's in Australia at the moment, and he was like, I played on 3 or 4 of his albums already, and he was like, I need some guitar on this song. I'll send some files through. He said, I want a clean guitar part. So sweet. And he knows that I'll make it good, and that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I mean, I used to get a lot of session work when there was a lot of stuff around. I was doing at least 2 sessions a week, every week. Which I could live off then, because that money went a lot further then than it does now. Now it's good it's a good time if I get a session every second week. Sometimes there's session work every week, at least one. Most of the time there's one session every 2 weeks. Sometimes every week at summertime when it's busier or whatever, or in the middle of winter it can be busy too. So yeah, the work's not there that used to be there, and Wellington's in a funny kind of place right now because where I live, because like there used to be the TV studio out here, the main Avalon TV studios, and we used to be out there every week doing TV shows, Dancing with the Stars, Karaoke High, One Night Only, all these sorts of shows, and you'd be doing recording sessions for that stuff all the time. And now those things, they closed the TV station, and it's now moved to Auckland, and it's smaller, and there's I've had some session work for that stuff, but it's not like it used to be. So there used to be a lot of stuff. I think the role of a session musician has changed. I don't think session musician nowadays is kind of what it meant back in the 60s. Someone like Tommy Tedesco would only be recording, and you would say he was a session musician. I think most session musicians now are kind of like, again, another term I hate, but I can't think of a better way of putting it. It's like the hired gun thing, where you're really like backing an artist, so I would say some gigs I do are session type gigs, like I did that one with Will Martin recently. I talked about him, and it was with a string quartet, 3 horns, guitar, piano, string quartet. I think it was only 4 strings. 6. 6 strings. Sorry, there was two. There was a bass as well. So bass, cello, 2 violins, viola, something like that, and then piano and guitar. No drums. So something like that, which was a recording session but played live in front of people, recorded and videoed. So they're going to show that at a whole bunch of retirement homes around New Zealand at the Somerset homes. So if you ever go into the Somerset home to visit your grandma or your mother or whoever, there'll be a TV screen there, and that's us playing that concert. So I see that as a session, even though technically it probably isn't what people might have thought of a session back in the day. So yeah, there is still some work here. Um, the thing with a city like LA, which used to be a real hub of session work, and I think still is. I still think there's a lot of work there, but there's a lot of work that's divided by a lot of people. And there probably was a time where someone like Dean Parks, there was probably Dean Parks and Tim Pearce and maybe Larry Carlton still on the tail end of it, or Steve Lucas, or those kind of guys were Dan Huff. They were doing all the work, whereas now there's probably like 50 people doing the work, and it's all spread out and diluted down a bit, I guess. So I think there's still work there, whereas I think Nashville seems to be, you hear of Tom Bukovac and Guthrie Trapp and what's that guy, Rob McNally, I think his name is, that I've been checking out recently, and a lot of these guys are still doing, Derek, they're still doing a lot of session work, which is great. It's great that stuff's being done. And maybe that's something about country music. It's not like kind of electronic based. It has to be guitars. So there's going to be session work for guitarists and bass players and drummers, right? Because of country. So but COVID's definitely kind of messed things up too, because people stopped making records for quite a period of time, and I don't think it's ever quite come back the way it was before that. People don't have the money to spend on stuff like they used to. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, I'm lucky to get a lot of session work. I consider myself fortunate to get it. And by a lot, I mean I probably have 40 to 50 a year sessions, and then like some gigs that I would say is like session gigs, like recordings or backing certain people or stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And those can vary in nature, from could be radio program to a live recording to a just backing an artist with an orchestra or something like that. Like my New Year's Eve gig, I would kind of consider that like a session. It is a live concert, but I'm going to be on in-ears with a click track with an orchestra. There's no room for errors. Hope that answers the question. One thing I find really hard with all these lives that I do and all this stuff is playing with in-ears. Do any of you use in-ear monitors? I hate them. I hate these things. Guitar sounds like shit through it. They just do. And I've used a bunch of them. I've got some more expensive ones. These are cheaper ones, but these cheaper ones actually sound okay. But I don't like the sound of guitar right in here. I like the sound of guitar blending in the ear. And even though I'm using a modeler, the point of a modeler is not silent. I mean, I have to because I've got the microphone here, and you probably can't see, but less than 2 feet away is my speakers. If I was to do that, then I wouldn't be able to use this mic, and then that would cause other problems. So kind of have to. But I don't know. I'd much rather have like an FR and just crank the thing up, and it's just easier to play. I just find this really difficult. And it's funny because I do a lot of session work where I'm playing on headphones, but headphones aren't like these blimmin' things, Headphones seem to sound more natural. I think too, part of it is too that when I'm playing with headphones, if I'm doing a session for someone, I'm playing a part, right? It's not really improvising, whereas when I'm doing this sort of stuff, I'm improvising stuff. Do you know what I mean? delay is super annoying. Sorry about that. Kind of all my stuff is behind me, so I can't really switch sounds too easily. So yeah, it was a little bit of Stella by Starlight. Oh, thank you very much, Greg. Yeah, I really dig this guitar. It just works a lot for me, you know what I mean? Like, but then, you know, this neck pickup, but then you've got the in-between. So I can just do a whole lot of things really good. Your lines go outside a bit but come back. Yeah, totally. What are your thoughts about players like Holdsworth that go outside and stay outside? Holdsworth that go outside and stay outside for a while. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind people that play out. Like, to me, it's like if someone's going to play out, if it's done in the right place, it can be a really powerful thing. But there's also playing out and just being shit, right? I don't think Alan Holdsworth is shit. I think he's awesome. I think he's incredible. I think he's one of those people that had a sound that was unlike anything else. Alan Holdsworth to me is like an alien. It's like he doesn't sound like nobody sounded like that. I don't get where that came from. You know, I mean, everybody you think of, anybody, you can hear their influences in their playing. Whereas when I hear Alan Holdsworth play, it was like, what is that? But the thing I found with it, I find his music really intense, and I find that sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, and I find that I'm kind of like, after, you know, maybe 3 or 4 songs, I'm kind of like, okay, I got to listen to something else. Whereas I could put Stevie Wonder on all day, every day, and, you know, I'd never get sick of it, like, ever. So just different things. But yeah, I like it when people play out. You know, there's different degrees of it, and if it's done at the right time, it can be a powerful tool. So yeah, I'm into it. You can back the volume off a little, and they sound great too. I love that stuff. Yeah, this guitar, I put a treble bleed on that, so that when you turn down, you're actually keeping the treble. So it just gets thinner, really. So sometimes I kind of use that. I use this volume control more as a tonal control than volume. So right, if I have clean, it's got some breakout because it's running through that pedal, but say I turn down to 9 or 8. So really what I'm doing is turning down the bass frequencies. And by doing that, by turning down the bass frequencies, it's like I can make it funkier more than anything, a little bit cleaner. I don't really lose too much volume, but yeah, so that's kind of cool. Thanks for tuning in, Simon. I appreciate it. Cool to hang out. And he says, thanks for the, but Uncle Ted and I need to go for a jam a bit. Awesome. Have a great New Year's gig, and we might even make it. I hope you can make it. It'd be great. It's not often, that there are gigs in Wellington where there's an orchestra and rhythm section. And you're playing like on a big stage with a big PA, and it's free, right? So, I mean, there'll be a lot of people around, which is annoying. It's slow to get around everywhere, queues, but hey, it'll be awesome. So yeah, if you can make it, it'd be fun. And there's lots of guitar solos, so you'll get to hear me, with like it or not. Or hopefully, depends on what the sound person does, you know what I mean? Like, had some of these gigs before where it can be hit or miss, but it's what it is. Grease says, I think Alan Holdsworth started as a sax and clarinet player before moving to guitar. I'd believe that, right? Though you hear the way he plays, it's like you can tell he's thinking like lines, and like it sounds like a horn player's phrasing. Harry K says 4 a.m. here. Coffee is on. Oh man, dude, thanks for joining me at 4 in the morning. That's dedication. I love it. The only thing I find with treble bleeds on guitars, which is what I've done in this, is you get to that point where it just sounds like shit, right? So volume up on full, volume on 8, kind of thins it out, takes off the drive. Really good funk kind of tone, right? 6, it's acceptable. 3 and 4. It's just all treble now, isn't it? Right? Because it's still letting the treble through, but yeah. Question here: do you ever still get nervous at gig sessions where you can't rip like you were at home? No, not really. I don't. I always prepare for stuff, right? Whatever I'm gonna go into. It's very rare that I walk in and I don't know what I'm gonna play anymore. That just doesn't happen. Although I did do a session earlier in the year where I recorded some backing tracks for a show that was touring, and they were only touring one guitarist, and I had to do 17 tunes, and he sent them to me the day before and said, oh, well, this is what we'll do tomorrow. So there was no time. I had a gig rehearsal that afternoon, gig that night, and he was coming over at 10 in the morning, the producer. So he was bringing his laptop around. He was going to plug into my system, which you can't see us on the other side of the camera, but he was going to plug into my system and just run out of through all my gear here so we could do it. And so there was no time to look at it, but at least I had a set list there, so I could kind of go, oh, it's this song and this song and this song. Kind of knew a little bit what I was in for, but I hadn't looked at it all. But I read pretty good, so I'm kind of not worried about that. Like, a lot of guitar players kind of panic about the reading thing. I mean, if I had to read a full-on classical guitar piece, that might be a different story. Or a bebop tune, and someone counted off and went 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm like, a whole lot of chromatic things, that might be difficult. But most other things, pop, rock, blues, fine. I'll just sight read, it'll be fine. Even this New Year's Eve gig, I could probably have sight read all that stuff. Yeah, even things like Don't Stop Believing, with the guitar solo written out and stuff like that, still be fine. Yeah. But so it's not too much in that sense, but I don't really get nervous at it now because I know I can cope with whatever's going to happen. There are definitely times when I feel like I could play better, and often that's out of my control. Like, there can be all kinds of factors in it, dealing with personalities, dealing with the studio, the sound. And if you can't hear things properly, it's really hard to play. That's why I much prefer doing sessions in my place here, because I can kind of take my time. I can get the sound how I want it. I don't have to ask someone to say, hey, can you give me a little more on my headphones or whatever. And invariably that never happens, right? So can I get a little more bass in my headphones? And then it's exactly the same as it was before. So yeah, like, I think it's preparation gives you confidence. So do you yeah, that's me for sure. Sight reading has been my bane since age 5. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's not how guitar players learn, right? So we don't because we don't learn that way. It's like so many people don't do it. But the thing I figured out when I was at music school, because I could already read a little bit then, but I wasn't very good. But I realized if I became like a half-assed reader, that I'm already like ahead of all the other guitar players around. And so I started getting a lot of work doing that. And because I've done it lots now, it's kind of just, and I work on it often, and I play stuff So if you just do it, you'll get used to it. It doesn't take much. If you started doing 5 minutes a day of reading, you'll be 6 months' time, you'll be doing really well. Sorry, I'm really tired too. It's one of those, there's so I'm rubbing my eyes. I've been feeling a bit sick today for some reason. I don't know, maybe something I ate or whatever. So I had a bit of a nap before doing this because I was like, I really wanted to do the live stream to keep up with this. So, any advice to overcome? Yeah, I do 5 minutes a day. Do some classical guitar stuff. Get a real book and just maybe read down 5 pages of the real book every day. And by the time you get to the end of the real book, start again, sort of loop through it all. Then what's happening is you're subconsciously learning those tunes. They're going into your brain, even though you may not remember them. And I find I'm often on gigs and we'll play a tune or something. I go, I know this. Where do I know this from? Because it's subconsciously gone, and I might have used it as sight reading practice or anything, or played it on some other gig. So yeah, that's a good place to start. You just do 5-10 minutes a day, and next thing you know, you'll be reading. Then I'll become more comfortable. Some guy says, do you feel compelled to clap or dance sometimes? Totally. If the music's happening, then I'm into it. I see myself as someone who loves music first and foremost, and that's what I'm passionate about is music. So just playing it is my thing, right? Do you play your mandolin much? Hardly ever. I'll get the mandolin out when I have a gig that I have to do that, and that's it. Otherwise, it sits in the corner over there and just doesn't get played. I'm not a mandolin player, and I never will be. I can play mandolin because I can play stringed instruments because I know how to use a pick, and I understand how to fret and do all that stuff. David says, hi Nick, greetings from Bathurst, New South Wales. Greetings from Wellington, New Zealand. I don't think I've ever been to Bathurst. Which part, what is it near? Some city I'd know. We did a trip last year to Australia. We went to Brisbane, had a week in Brisbane on the Gold Coast, which was awesome. 27 degrees even in winter. It's amazing. Beautiful beaches. And then in 2019, we spent some time in Australia and we went to Sydney. Then we drove a car from Sydney to Melbourne. Yes, Sydney to Melbourne down that coast. It was beautiful. And then we flew to Perth, went and spent some time with family in all 3 cities. So that was awesome. He's got family in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. Oh, you use the flow shape picks? I like this as well. I use these Jazz 3 XLs. I like these. I've been using them for ages, and I kind of change my mind about it like all the time. And I'll kind of go, oh, why don't I use something else? And then I'll do that for a day or two. And then I pick this back up and I go, that's what I should be using. Crazy, isn't it? No matter how much I've spent on picks, because I bought some really expensive ones and cheap ones, I just seem to go back to these. A really nice guy called Vinny from VPix sent me a whole lot of picks when we were in the UK, and I like some of his picks. I'd love to actually work with someone like him on actually like developing a pick that works the way I want, because this is kind of, these Jazz 3 XLs by Dunlop are kind of okay. They're not perfect, but they're okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I use. 3 hours west from Sydney, home of the supercars, Mount Panorama. Oh yeah, of course. I like them too. Jazz 3s too. It's just a tad thick for me. Yeah. But they're made of a material where there's a bit of flex in it, so they're a thicker pick, but they're still kind of got a bit of flex. I like them because they're good for a rhythm guitar as well as like playing lead parts. The best pick I've played probably lately has been a Dunlop Flow. I think it was called. Do I have one handy here? Right, this is a cool thing. When you buy Glenn's pickups, he sends you this little laser cut box that you assemble and you can put your picks in it. Just awesome. Oh, there you go. There's one of Mark Lettieri's picks. You guys probably know who he is. If you don't, you should check him out. Mark's great. He stayed at my house one time when he was here. Not this house, the house we had before this. And slept on the couch, and I found a whole lot of his picks down the back of the couch. Must have fallen out of his pocket or something, because his flight was missed. But yeah, there's a V pick. That's kind of an interesting one. Do I have one of those? I quite like these. These are good too, the Jazz 3 XLs, the black ones. But I find that these, if you drop a black pick, goodbye. You're never going to find it again. I had some picks. I've had picks made before. A whole lot of those. I even had some Guitar Daily picks made. And I did use those for a little while. Hopefully you can see that. It felt a bit cheesy to do that though. But hey, I'm all about the cheese. These are kind of okay too. Alright. Some more of these V-picks. Vinny stuff. They're great. They're really good. But a lot of them are chunkier than I would normally use. Like, that's a pretty meaty pick for me. And actually, he sent... we were staying with my friend Simon... Oh, there we go. Staying with my friend Simon King in England. If you guys don't know Simon, you should check him out. He's a bad, bad dude. Amazing album, actually. Him and Scott Devine did together. I think it's called Divine King, after their surnames. But I stayed with Simon, and Vinny sent the picks to Simon's house, because that's where we were at the time. And Simon rated them and grabbed all the best ones. So here's those flow picks I was telling you about. I really like these. I don't know if you can see that. They're hand beveled on the edge, and they have a great... Yeah, and they have a really good grip. I just kind of feel a bit like sandpaper, but I find they don't move at all. They're great. This is a .88. I'm actually, when we get to the US, I'm going to see if I can get the 1mm and give that a try. Yeah, they're really good. David says, "Hi Nick, can you please explain your process preparing for a new gig? Song learning process, getting the right tones." Yeah, so this New Year's Eve gig, like the bulk of it for me, because they've sent the charts through about a week before the gig, and then there was a couple more that just came through yesterday, I think it was. The gig's on Tuesday. It's really about getting the right tones. So I've been listening. I'll put the tune on. I'll go on YouTube. So something like "Don't Stop Believing," which is one of the tunes we're playing. I went on YouTube and I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to play the Les Paul for that, because that's what it needs. It needs that big beefy kind of tone, bridge pickup Les Paul, what pedals I'm going to use, those kind of things. And I write that stuff on the chart. Really important to do that, because you think you'll remember, but you just don't. So I write everything down. And then I'll go through and I'll play along to the recording once if I get a chance to, and then usually that's good to go. If there's any problem areas, I'll kind of isolate those. There was one chart which was Total Eclipse of the Heart, which had this line in it, and all it is a B flat mixolydian scale, and then it goes right, but the B flat note doubles up in the middle. And that kept screwing me up, because I just wanted to go... Because how many times have you played up the scale like that? So I made a note on there, drew some glasses to say, look, it's B flat twice, right? So that's part of my prep, is kind of figuring out that sort of stuff. The 500 Miles, I don't think I've even bothered listening to it or anything, because I know that I've played it before. It's straightforward, so... I don't spend my time on stuff like that. I spend my time on things like "Don't Stop Believing." The guitar solo for there it goes. Oh. Ah. So with that one, the arranger just put guitar solo, so he didn't write it in at all. And I thought, gee, for living on a prayer, you have to play that exact solo. So just before I did this, I had a nap because I was feeling a bit wiped out. I think I'm feeling a bit sick. Not sure why. This is why I keep rubbing my eye. Sorry. Maybe I ate something, but. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, but so he didn't write it in, but I was like, you can't just jam your own solo over that song. It's so well known. So I was like, okay, I need to go and learn the actual solo. So I've kind of figured out the notes now. I'll go over it a couple more times and just embed it, because you can see I was kind of guessing my way through it. And that's what I'll do, yeah. Yeah, I do. I don't sweat that much, but I sweat enough that picks do occasionally kind of get a bit messy. But those Dunlop ones seem to be the Jazz 3XLs, and these Dunlop flows are awesome. My favorite pedal of the year. Billy says? What's your favorite pedal of the year? I'm actually going to do a video and kind of recap this whole year and kind of the important things and what I've changed my mind about with gear. Because like this guitar here, for example, changing the pickups has now made this one of my favorite guitars. Whereas before that, I didn't really play it at all. It's just didn't like the sound of it. I knew I bumped the bridge when I did that. That's silly. This doesn't have locking tuners either, so generally holds pretty good tuning, but I knew I bumped it in a weird kind of way just then. There we go. So yeah, I was actually going to do a thing about that. My favorite pedal, I can't really show you it right now, it's back here, but it's the Keeley. This is probably the pedal that's my favorite of this year. One of two. It'd be the Keeley Blues Disorder, and that's actually what I'm using on New Year's Eve. One of my favorite all-time pedals, as anyone will know, is the OCD. I have, as you can see on the pedal shelf back there, I have a version 1.6 of the OCD, which I love, and I have a version 2, which is okay, but the 1.6 does sound warmer. But the Keeley Blues Disorder has an OCD circuit in it, and it has a blues breaker circuit in it, the Marshall blues breaker. So you can kind of do both with just a flick of a switch, and you can have the drive circuit be an OCD or a blues driver, and you can have the tone circuit be a blues driver or an OCD, and have those two separate. And I find that super handy because now essentially I can get, like, if I go to the blues breaker sound, I'll get that kind of creamy blues tone, neck pickup tone. And then if I want to play like New Year's Eve, we're playing a lot of rock stuff, I switch it down to the OCD sound, and there's that. So one pedal does two kind of really good tones. I can show you that, right? So this is the OCD circuit side of it. Just great. This works, right? So that'd be one. And the OTB custom boost, I think, is just this puts a sparkle on everything, and I just love that pedal. It's great. It's not cheap, but I think it's worth it. It's got those places you've got to hit. Does not to be exact necessarily. Yeah, I agree. I usually when I do songs like that, like Living on a Prayer or Don't Stop Believing, which we're playing, I'm not going to try and play that solo note for note. I learn the solo, I know that I can play it, and then I kind of go, right, what am I going to do? Put my little stamp on it. And that's kind of important, I think, because it's not even classical music. I was going to say it's not classical music where they go in and just reproduce what it says on the music. But the really great classical players don't do that either. They interpret it themselves. So I always look at it that way. Like I remember someone once giving me shit about playing a Brian May solo Queen thing, and he was like, it doesn't sound like Brian May. And I was like, good. I'm not Brian May. I'm not trying to be. Nick Granville from New Zealand, so I'm going to do my spin on it, right? Otherwise, what's the point? David says, thank you, Nick. Do you get to jam songs with the band or just use the charts and hope to God everybody has their parts down? So there'll be a rehearsal for New Year's Eve. There'll be a rehearsal and then gig. But the rehearsal's on the day of the gig, which I think is risky. It's not my call. I would have done the rehearsal the day before, mostly because this is a little different. I believe they've got some tracks that they're going to use on a couple of songs, because we're doing some big kind of synth 80s and 90s stuff. And so they're going to have like click track with some tracks that we play along to, which is a real popular thing here now. There's a group called Synthony, right? Synth. And they do all the kind of 90s synth banger songs, and they do it with tracks plus live orchestra. So that's kind of what their plan is. And this conductor, Brent Stewart, really good conductor, he conducts symphony sometimes, so he wants to kind of do a little bit of that for this. So we'll do the big power rock songs and won't use the tracks, but the synth stuff we will. So, and that's on the day. So yeah, we'll just, hopefully it works out. I mean, it will, there's good musicians involved. It shouldn't be a problem. But a lot of gigs I just have to turn up and play. Sometimes I've had gigs where I've been called up 2 hours before the gig, and blah blah blah, sick, can you come and do this right now? Okay. I've had gigs where I've been, can you fly to Auckland tomorrow for the gig? Walk in and sight read the showdown, and okay, because I read okay, I'm not too worried about that. It's a bit scary, but I can do it. But so some gigs there's rehearsal. I don't think necessarily more rehearsal makes for a better gig. I think getting the right musicians together is the first critical part of the picture. So if you get the right people in the room, magic happens. If you get the right music, right, magic can happen. If you have the right kind of environment for those musicians to play, magic can happen. What I mean by that is like sound people who kind of get how it's supposed to go and just let the musicians get on with it, and they're playing good music that the people want to hear. Because you can play amazing classical music or jazz or whatever, blues, and if they're not into that, it doesn't matter how well you play it, that's not the music they want to hear. Especially if it's like, say, a pub and they want to just hear rock music. And vice versa. Say they want background music at a wedding and you're a rock band and it's just wrong. So anyway, question, have you played with Leon Todd? No, I haven't. I'd love to play with Leon. I love Leon's playing. I think he's amazing. I've met Leon a bunch of times with things we've done. I was a guest on his podcast, the Gear podcast, with him and Troy, which was so much fun to just nerd out and talk guitar gear and stuff. And yeah, he's an amazing guitar player. He really is. And so I'd love to play with Leon one day. It'd be great. There is the Noosa Guitar Festival, which he was just a guest at. And I was talking about it, and he says, man, you should come over and play. And I was like, totally. And if that happens this year, which I'm going to get in touch with him and say, hey, look, I want to come. I don't care. Make it happen somehow. Hopefully Leon's there and we get to play. It'd be awesome. Funny how you can play a chord or a couple of notes and kind of hear a song, right? Yeah. So part of your question too was use the charts and hope to God everybody has their parts down. So I would say probably half my gigs are reading where there's some form of charts, and that might be just a chord chart, it might be notated, it could be a combination of the both. But a lot of gigs there's nothing, you just turn up and use your ear. And a lot of stuff that's like, yeah, you've got to try and figure it out. So I'm thinking about what I've got coming up. So I've got New Year's Eve, and then we're away for most of January. So I've got no gigs in January. So January is going to be a poor month. Right? It's like, ooh, okay, it's going to be interesting. Spending money rather than making it, but that's fine. Well, I'll survive. And then February I get back and I'm doing a solo guitar concert opening for somebody. I don't know the artist, but a friend of mine runs a golf course out here. Gareth Morgan's golf course, and it's a very wealthy guy. And so he was like, do you want to come out here and do a solo set for an hour? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So I've got that, and then I've got the Nelson Opera in the Park, which will be a reading gig with an orchestra, Christchurch Symphony. And for that they have Annie Crummer and Diva Mahal and the other singers, Naomi Ferguson and Betty Ann Monga from Adisha. So there'll be 4 singers, and that's really a pop gig, but orchestra type stuff. So yeah. Silly question, can you fit your hand inside the hole in the back of your Ovation? Fit your hand inside the hole in the back? Ovation doesn't have a hole in the back of it. You mean the round back part of it? What's that, Keely? No, mine's just completely rounded on the back. There's no hole in the back and just a hole in the front. That I bought that guitar like 20 years ago because Pat Metheny had one, and that's the same year as Pat Metheny's one, although his has a cutaway. I think mine doesn't. But it's a really beautiful guitar. It's a really warm sounding nylon string. So I use it when I want to do like jazz type stuff where I want that extra warmth. I have a nylon string that's an Ibanez, a cheaper guitar, but that's the one I'd primarily take. It kind of sounds more like a classical guitar, but it has a good pickup system in it and all that. Whereas the Ovation, the pickup system's kind of screwed these days. And then I have a Yamaha Silent, which is one of those silent ones. So if I know I've got a big outdoor stage and I have to play nylon string, I'll take the Silent every time because there's no body to feedback. I've had this before where I've had to like do really delicate kind of nylon string stuff with just me and a singer, and it's like, the feedback is just impossible. I mean, with in-ears it might be a little different, but is it a holy guitar? Dum-dum-ch. Harry says hybrid picking or finger picking. Hybrid picking versus finger picking. I don't really hybrid pick at all. I'm not very good at that kind of technique of doing that. I get the merits of it. There can be a lot of things. To me, it always sounded the way when I'm trying to do it sounds weird because the pick is bright and the fingers are warm. And I don't have nails, so it never really worked for me. I'm either going to finger pick or I'm going to use the pick. It's not both. So yeah, I don't tend to hybrid pick. I just finger pick, and that's just me. Is it a holy guitar? What are you currently practicing to get better at? Yeah, I've been on a quest most this year, working on my technique, actually trying to get my ability to play at faster tempos up. And this guitar is not an easy guitar to play, so I find my chops are about a 90% on this guitar of what I'd be able to do on anything else. But I quite like that. It makes me play a certain way. Whereas, like, say I got on my Schofield guitar, that's probably the easiest guitar I have to play. Even with heavier gauge strings on it, like 11s, I can just burn on that guitar. I can play fast tempo, no problem. But, so I've kind of been working on, like, trying to get that into... I won't embarrass myself and show you, but been working on that and trying to do that and get it more even, and I'm holding the different pick. If I had the Jazz 3, that would be even better still, I'd hope. So I'm working on that. I'm always working on rhythm. I work on kind of my time and groove more than anything else. Different things with metronome, playing along to tracks, putting on drum loops, whatever I can do to try and get more solid with my rhythm. It's probably the biggest thing I work on more than anything. A lot of times it's working on things for a particular gig. So like most of my focus at the moment, apart from being on kind of holiday mode, is that New Year's Eve gig. I've got to get that material down and have it to a point where it is. So that's my focus and my practice. So, and a lot of times it's like that for me, especially if I have something that's a really challenging gig. Like, say, I did We Will Rock You a couple of months ago, and I knew there was going to be guitar solos in every song, and it was going to be all that Queen stuff. So those things, I wanted to memorize them too and sort of have them so I wasn't like fully reading it, and so I could kind of, yeah. So yeah, so like a gig like that was like the month leading up to that gig was getting all those solos down, and at Bohemian Rhapsody I had to go up the front of stage, so I was like, right, I want to make sure I have that nailed and memorized so that I'm not out front kind of, So yeah, but mostly rhythm more than anything else. Timing is Greg says timing is the most important thing for all musicians, especially drummers. I agree, because it's the thing that people respond to, right? If you play with good rhythm, people will follow what you do. You play with bad rhythm, it doesn't matter what flash notes you have, what tone you have, whatever, none of it makes sense, and people just won't follow what you're doing. So good rhythm is it. Like, it's even when I solo, like I want to have my soloing feel steady and not be rushing the beat, and playing with good rhythm. That's it, right? It's everything. And actually, the players I respond to the most are usually the people that have great rhythm. Someone like Charlie Hunter. I listen to Charlie Hunter, and he'll play 2 bars, and it just kills me. And I just go away going, man, and he's such a cool dude too. So you get that impression from when he plays that he's just a choice dude, But, I hear someone like that, and I just go, wow. I heard this guy the other day, and Seth Lee Jones, I don't know if you guys know him, a slide player. Freaking fantastic. There's not a lot of stuff around on YouTube, but I heard an interview with Jude Gold on that podcast, and he was playing some stuff that was just beautiful. I checked a few things out on YouTube and stuff, but great rhythm. Oh, thanks, David. David says, Nick, I love your straight ahead, no bullshit approach. Much appreciated. New fan here. Oh, thank you very much. That's kind of how Kiwis are. We're pretty kind of straight ahead, right, Nick? You know, sometimes to a fault, right? Kiwis can be quite relaxed people and kind of not take things to everything's like sweet as it'll be fine, you know. When sometimes it's not, we're not necessarily be fine, but that's kind of what I try to do. So anyway, I'm gonna have to go. This has been 95 minutes. I was actually I usually only do these for an hour, but I was getting yabbering on about my bullshit. And so thank you very much for listening, everyone. I'll play out with some stuff, And to tell you what I do. So this is the blues disorder that I was telling you about, right? In the OCD mode. Sounds great, like for a classic rock tone. I'm going to put it into the blues breaker mode so you can hear that, which is what I'd use for a different thing. So I've literally flicked one switch and I just moved the volume down a little bit because this one has a bit more volume. In fact, that's probably a touch loud. Let me put it in too much. Here we go. It's just adding a bit of hair on it. Right, and then if I add the OTB, so this is the OTB and that Kearley pedal, in the blues breaker mode. So that's a really usable tone, you know, and as I said, just flick one switch. Anyway, folks, I'm going to have to go. This has been 98 minutes, so maybe I should just play a couple more minutes to get to 100. What even is 100 minutes? 60, an hour 40. Hey, look, I hope you all have a great New Year's Eve. I'm going to try and see if I can stream the gig just quietly. Don't tell anyone. If I can chuck my phone up on the stand and film a little bit, I will. We'll see how that goes. Or maybe I'll take this along. I'll probably take that anyway, but if I can stream a little bit of the gig, I'll just chuck my phone up somewhere and see if I can get away with it. But thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all your support this year. I can't believe I've done these videos every day, and I can't believe that people want to watch. That's amazing. And from all around the world, I mean, it's incredible. And yeah, thank you very much. And I'll keep doing these videos as long as I can, and like I said, it's gonna be patchy in January, but there'll be some good new stuff coming. So thanks very much. Oh, Chris Griswell. Oh, dude, didn't know you were here. My good buddy. Go and check out the Charlie Tango project. Is it charlietangoproject.com or something like that? He's just put up a website. Great music. I played on a couple of tracks actually. And it's sounding really good. So that's a project that Chris is going to put out this year. So yeah, go and check that out. Anyway, thanks very much. See ya.